Maxey! Wow, what a play! He's got Bogdanovich thinking about a three. There it is! Yes! From beyond. Oh, and there's Boyle coming up with a steal. Curry open. It's for three. Yes!
And now, Morning Cup of Joe. What is up, everybody? Good morning, Sixers fam. Welcome to number 2 episode of Morning Cup of Joe, a show where we just react. We slept on last night's season opening win over New Orleans Pelicans. We're going to talk about it. I've got an interview today with my man, Austin Krell. We're debating who is more important to the Sixers' success this year, Matisse Thybulle or Tyrese Maxey. And then we're going to wrap up the program with my top 5 plays versus the New Orleans Pelicans. And I'm just going to get Tiago's reaction. Joining us, as always, is my man, Tiago. He is at TScabia on Twitter. Good morning, Tiago.
I don't know if we slept on the game quite fully. The game just ended like 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
But it's good to be talking Sixers always.
Yeah. And as always, guys, please share the love. Smash that like and subscribe button if you love the Sixers. A ton of content dropping after this morning's program. I promise you, it's going to be freaking wild this Sixers season. And if you're watching us live, comment, all that fun stuff. Let's start with top takeaways from last night's W. I can't get Furkan Korkmaz's second half out of my head this morning. That was, I think, the biggest storyline of last night's show. So you had Furkan Korkmaz in 11 minutes, 5 of 7 from the field, 4 of 4 from three-point range. He had 18 points, 3 assists, 1 steal, majority of those in the fourth quarter, and he was a plus 19. You look at his advanced stats, and they're absolutely hilarious. He had a net rating of 78.8. 148 offensive rating and a 69 defensive rating for Furkan Korkmaz. The dude, Furkan Korkmaz, hit 4 threes in just a little over 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, Tiago, 4 freaking three-pointers. It was, I think, and the starters never had to come back into the game after that. It was like, that was it. So what an offensive showcase for Furkan Korkmaz. What about you, man?
Yeah, man, he did most of that as a kind of like backup point guard, which is what the Sixers needed when they didn't have Shake and obviously Ben being out. So he was asked to do way more than what he usually does. And I thought that he did a very good job of trying to orchestrate some sort of offense without, turning the ball over and kind of doing, things that you would expect a raw ball handler to do. So give him a lot of credit for that because that's quite a feat to do, man. I mean, it's not all guards can handle what he had to handle last night. So that's really good. And I think it speaks to one of the biggest takeaways of last night, which is the Sixers bench as a whole. I mean, we saw in the first half, right? Doc went to that full bench lineup that we saw many times last year. And it's not something that I would do, but he's very his hands are very tied up this year with Ben's situation on hold right now. So his only option is really to kind of stagger Joel and Tobias, which he did in the second half. So in the second half, some of that bench lineup included Tobias Harris running with the second unit to make sure that things kind of went a little bit smoother. Because like in the first half, it was kind of a little bit touch and go, right? So it looked good for a while, but there was stretches where you're like, oh man, the Sixers don't have a point guard on the court. And it's like Matisse Thybulle or Isaiah Joe trying to do things that they're really not used to doing. I did expect a little bit more from Isaiah Joe as a backup ball handler. You could really see that the speed, the physicality of the game was kind of a lot for him yesterday. And again, it doesn't mean that they should give up on any type of Isaiah Joe experiment. He's kind of more of a shooter. He's a ball handler. He's going to find his footing, I think, there. But so I think that overall the second unit looked really good considering the circumstances. I know we talked about Niang being a very key contributor this year. You can tell he's going to be a massive upgrade from what they had. That's really important. Dwight Howard, he's still in my mind, man. Andre Drummond plays a little bit more under control from the standpoint of like not doing a lot of cheap stuff. Technicals, fouls, something that kind of drove me crazy with Dwight. Big presence on the board. Like we saw 17 rebounds. So I think that from that standpoint, and he does a little bit more things on the ball that Dwight can do, like take guys off the dribble, sometimes a little bit too much, obviously, but he's a good passer. He's got great vision. So all these things Dwight didn't really bring to the table. So all those things for me trended very positive for the Sixers as a whole as a bench unit, and he really kind of brought it home in the second half.
There we go. I'm muted. Talk about Andre Drummond. I was really impressed with his pick and roll defense last night. He only had 6.17 boards, but he was a plus 22 last night. Talk about Dwight Howard and his inability to fit with last year's lineups, especially with Ben Simmons. Like that, every time he was on the court, it just normally, majority of the time, killed the Sixers over and over again. Andre Drummond was an overwhelmingly positive impact. He did have 4 turnovers. But I want to talk real quick before we get to our interview about Tyrese Maxey. It was a tale of two halves for this dude. I thought he kind of just was over-penetrating a little bit in that first half. He was passing up open looks. And then you kind of look at the second half, you could really see him start to settle down, especially in that pick and roll. In the first half, Maxey was 2 of 6 from the field for 6 points. He was a -4. And then you get to the second half, 6 of 8 from the floor, 14 points, 3 assists, just 1 turnover. He was a plus 27, a team leading 27 for Tyrese Maxey there in the second half. And he had a defensive rating in the second half of 82.4. Like pretty much the entire Sixers roster just dominated defensively. And that's really how they built their lead so much. How would you grade Tyrese Maxey's performance last night, man? A quick F to A grade.
Yeah, I give it like a B minus, and it's what you would expect from a second-year guard whose role has been elevated way more than what he probably expected in the second year, right? This up and down roller coaster, some great minutes, some not so good minutes. I thought his first half was really poor. I thought he had a really rough first half, but one of the things about Tyrese Maxey that we all know is that he is a fearless competitor, and he really, is tremendously confident in his ability. So you saw that in the second half play out in a big way. I mean, he had a very impactful second half, extremely impactful. I mean, one of the things that I noticed about him, he was fearless in attacking like drop coverage. So much like Ben Simmons, I mean, the Pelicans really did not have any type of respect for his outside shooting. And he's the kind of guy who's like, okay, you're going to give me space. I'm going to shoot. And did that on multiple occasions. He had a nice little 3-pointer where you kind of lean into it, a little dribble pull up. He had to kind of get the second half started. And his play with Embiid is also something that is really, you can see the synergy, you can see the partnership that working out. Like you said, the pick and roll, they read a couple of dribble handoffs for him where he kind of beats at the screen, and Max comes downhill, and his speed is insane. So the Sixers did a good job of manufacturing looks for him in the second half, and he did a tremendous job attacking what defense gave him. I think that he's the kind of guy whose confidence we know is not going to waver at all. And that's something that the Sixers definitely need at that point guard position. I do think that, you can see how him in the second unit makes sense, even though, we talk about him being a starter. They really need a second unit ball handler, and he can be exactly that guy. So,
yeah, I thought he was getting killed there in the first half by Nickeil Alexander-Walker, just especially off the dribble. That was brutal. You look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker was 6 of 9 from the field for 14 points, in the first half. In the second half, nothing. He was 3 of 7, minus 27 on the court. Not going to count all that to Tyrese Maxey, of course. But I like to see that. I like to see the adjustments there in the second half. I've got my man Austin Krell joining us in an interview. I talked to him about who is more critical to the Sixers' success. Is it Matisse Thybulle or is it Tyrese Maxey? Here is the. All right, guys. First interview on the Morning Cup of Joe. I've got my main man, Austin Krell. He is our Sixers writer, NBA reporter for the Painted Lines. Follow his podcast, The Feed to Embiid, on Twitter at The Feed to Embiid. You can follow my man Austin on Twitter at NBA Krell. What's up, Austin?
What's going on, Chris? It's always a pleasure to being on these programs. That's for sure.
I love how you come on the show, and we've made so many jokes about Chick-fil-A in the past, and you're eating McDonald's. You're literally betraying.
No, I didn't even eat. I just got a soda. That's all I got was soda.
All right, I won't tell anybody. But let's dig into some Sixers content. My first question to you: Sixers are 2 preseason games in. Who is more important to the success of the 2021-22 Sixers, Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle? Don't let me down, man.
Tyrese Maxey is going to be more important because I think they have to make a decision, like which direction are we really going to lean into with our core philosophies this year. And I just don't think that Matisse Thybulle is enough defensively by himself to really be that to build their identity around perimeter defense this year. So I think if they're going to do anything, it's going to be more around a copacetic offense that flows better and has less stoppages and less ugliness to it. And I think that's where Maxey comes in and his balance as a point guard, both in transition and in the half court.
So we've only seen 2 games. One game he started. The other game, Shake started. It's only been 2 games. Way too small sample size. Is Tyrese Maxey best suited starting on this Sixers team in 2021? Do you have any vibes so far?
Yeah, it's interesting. Doc has spoken very highly of Shake Milton. I do wonder if that's something like he's going to surprise everyone on the first night and be like, "Oh, nope, we're going to go Maxey instead." Yeah. He's kind of alluded like you guys know who the point guard is going to be, so I can't really get a feel. What I would say is Shake, or that neither of them looked great in the first game at all, and Maxey looked really good second game. I think one of the problems they're going to run into with Shake as a starting point guard is they're going to have slow starts to games, because there are times if it's a more physical defender or a more athletic defender, it's just going to be someone who is going to pick him up in the backcourt and really going to put pressure on him and make it hard for him to get up the court. And that was something that Toronto did, and he struggled with it. He was turning the ball over with live ball turnovers, and they were getting out in transition with the Raptors. So I think it's something where you might have a by committee type thing. You'll see who's hot and what matchup is more favorable. I think if it were me, it's a really hard question to answer, because I think you can make the argument, well, maybe we can afford to have a little bit of worse point guard play on our starting 5 if we have Joel and we have Tobias and whatever. But if Maxey's really picking up that second unit, do we want to touch that? Because if we can have that secondary spark off the bench, that's huge for us, and it's something that we haven't had. So I can see that mentality, that way of thinking. I think if you want to put your best 5 on the floor, I would probably go with Maxey.
All right. Next question. How do the Sixers pick up the slack on the defensive end without Ben Simmons? And how does that impact Doc Rivers' system from last year? We all know they were among the top, at least when they were healthy, among the top defensive efficiency teams in the NBA in 2021. What do you expect without Ben Simmons, and where do you see this team evolving in terms of their identity?
Yeah, so I think number one might see less switching. just because switching is just target. So all that is just targeting defense. Like when offenses know you're switching, they're just going to be, well, let's find Maxey or let's find Seth Curry or let's find whomever and target them and try to get this matchup and go to work on that. So I think you might see less of that potentially. I also think you might see just a little more zone, because if you don't have like they had Ben Simmons playing the roamer position last season, and that was effective because he could come out of nowhere and really like make extra rotations and throw offenses out of whack just by being in the right spot at the right time and on time. Now they don't have somebody gifted like that defensively, so I think it's going to be something where you're going to maybe see a little bit more zone just to combat that weakness that you have in terms of your athleticism defensively. But I think the ultimate answer is just going to be like, we're going to throw some stuff at the wall, see if it works, and hope our offense can hum.
Doesn't bring confidence, Austin.
No, it shouldn't bring confidence, no.
All right, last question. As the current roster stands, man, where do you see the Sixers finishing in the East? How many wins? What do you got?
I'll go.
It's tough, man. There's so much unknown to this roster.
I would go 46-36.
Okay.
Sixth or play-in game is what I would say.
All right. That is my main man, Austin. Austin, where can we find you? What do you got going on, dude?
You can find me at thepaintedlines.com. I cover the Sixers daily on the beat, so I'm writing there all the time, so you can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter. My handle's in my name tag right here on the screen, so you can always reach out to me there as well. And yeah.
That is Austin Krell. Go follow him on Twitter at NBA Krell. Follow all of his amazing work at thepaintedlines.com. Thank you so much for joining, Austin. I'm sure you'll be on more and more as we continue and evolve Morning Cup of Joe. Thanks, Austin.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right, that is Austin Krell. Follow him on Twitter at NBA Krell. Has some interesting words there on Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle. Let's get into it, Tiago. Let's get into my top 5 plays of last night's game. Here we go.
Tobias Harris, the corner 3, off the heel, tracks down his own long rebounds.
Right
awesome high-low game there between Joel and Tobias Harris. My honorable mention.
They did a lot of that. Tobias, as a post threat, can be hit or miss. He was good last night.
Yeah. So we saw some high-low action between Ben and Joel last year. We're going to get that now with Tobias in 2021-22. Let's get into my top 5.
With the absence of obviously Lonzo Ball and Eric Bledsoe this year. Joel all the way to the...
I don't know if I'll ever get tired of watching bigs, sell on Joel's pump fake and get, Joel uses the dribble and finishes at the rim. What about you, man?
Yeah, was that Valanciunas?
I believe so. He sold on a lot of pump fakes last night.
Yeah, Valanciunas is not built to defend on the perimeter, man. Especially Joel. He's got to be way back there hoping Joel takes a 3. That's not a good look for Valanciunas.
No. All right, number 4.
Taking advantage of the fact that he's made a couple of 3s.
A good look.
Oh, I love this play. Pick and roll between Isaiah Joe and Andre Drummond, and Matisse Thybulle gets found. Wide open layup down there underneath the rim.
Pelicans just unfortunate.
Yeah, so we talked about that. Using Thybulle more as a cutter, right? So not so much as a 3-point threat because his 3-point shot is very unreliable. And apparently the Sixers listened a little bit. Doc Rivers, that is a great look for Matisse Thybulle, man. Like, that's what you want him doing on offense. He's going to get tons of good buckets. Great cutter, big, length, strong. So.
Yeah, they found him. I think there was one play last night where they found him underneath the rim, and he put the ball in the court. No, just dunk it, man. Just go straight up. Just go straight up. And he just thought too much, and it led to a missed field goal. Number 3.
Able to finish, and that's something we mentioned in the first quarter. We're going to see a lot of.
We're able to finally get it done.
Yeah.
And the block by Niang as Murphy tried to finish on the
George
baseline.
Niang blocked,
Defense without foul,
and a three-pointer
keeping
on
that
the
inside
other
position.
end.
Big screen from Drummond. Niang from the
And
sideline rattles home another.
yeah, I mean, George Niang is a guy that just impacts the game on so many different levels. You know, he's so good with the ball, with and without the ball. The ball doesn't stop with him. He can impact the game on offense and defense. What about you, man? What was your take on Niang last night?
Yeah, I mean, reliable. Defended Brandon Ingram on a couple possessions. Gave Thibault a breather a little bit. So I'm very excited about that addition. And my big takeaway from that particular highlight is Korkmaz making a sweet cross-court pass. Like, that's the stuff we were talking about earlier. Like, it didn't look completely out of whack with Korkmaz as a point guard, and that's an attribute to him.
Yeah, Korkmaz had one freaking turnover last night, and this Niang Korkmaz duo could be, you know, an underrated storyline off the bench.
Yeah, he did it again in the second half. Similar look, same play. Niang knocked it down. So.
Yeah, definitely something to watch for. Let's go on to my number 2.
Triple. That's why they brought him in. Away, Maxey loses it.
Yes.
Here comes Ingram, and well done by Thibault to track back and steal it back. Korkmaz, make it 4.
And that was Korkmaz's 4th three-pointer. Started off by Matisse Thybulle stripping Brandon Ingram on the defensive end. Any take on that one?
Yeah, I mean, defense to offense. That's what Thibault does. I thought that he defended Brandon Ingram very well. Ingram is a tough guy to defend, man. He's very long, very big, and he definitely got Thibault on a couple possessions, especially in the post. But that's what Thibault does, man. That's what he's there to do, and he's off to a good start.
Awesome. Let's go to my number 1.
In the 4th.
He's going to command that ball, and they have to play off of him. So this
I had to make multiple plays for my number 1. It couldn't be just one play.
After the Sixers game on post.
This is the 8-point swing by Furkan Korkmaz.
Korkmaz is yet to hit a 3 tonight, and there it is. Furkan rattling home the triple. Let's see if the second unit can do what Mark and the coach just talked about. Back-to-back threes for Furkan Korkmaz.
And that is my top 5 plays of the game. Number 1 for me goes to Furkan Korkmaz breaking open the game with bang, 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 a steal and back-to-back three-pointers. An 8-point, 1-steal run that really just just nailed this win in the coffin for the Philadelphia 76ers. Any takeaways from my top 5, dude?
Yeah, man. Not a lot of Joel Embiid, not a lot of Tobias Harris, which is good to see. They're going to need the whole team to help this year, and they're off to a good start from that standpoint. Big game Friday versus Brooklyn, so it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to get the similar type of performance. The Nets are not particularly very deep, but they got a couple guys on their lineup that are absolutely killers. So they're going to be matched up with those guys on a few occasions. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
All right, man. Thank you, everyone, for watching Morning Cup of Joe. We'll be back, Saturday morning, I believe, to break down and just continue to talk about our top takeaways. Where can we find you, Tiago? What do you got going on?
Yeah, man. So _ Tiscabi, it's on the screen right there. And we'll continue to do these as we go along. Sixers post-game live, also the Morning Cup of Joe, and try to pump out a couple articles from what I see throughout the year. There's a lot of things to observe this year. The team is it's changing in front of our eyes, but it's a good start.
He is Tiago at Tscabby on Twitter. Please give him a follow if you love the Philadelphia 76ers. Give this video a like if you love the Philadelphia 76ers. For Tiago, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. See you on Friday for the Sixers postgame versus the Nets. Thank you, everyone. Stay